Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you very much. Well, welcome. This country is leaving its chrysalis. We are re-emerging after decades of hibernation as a campaigner for global free trade. And frankly, it is not a moment too soon, because the argument for this fundamental liberty is now not being made. And yet, my friends, I am here to warn you today that this beneficial magic is fading. Free trade is being choked. And that is no fault of the people. That's no fault of individual consumers. I'm afraid it is the politicians who are failing to lead. The mercantilists are everywhere. The protectionists are gaining ground. From Brussels to China to Washington, tariffs are being waved around like cudgels, even in debates on foreign policy, where, frankly, they have no place. And there is an ever-growing proliferation of non-tariff barriers. And the resulting tensions are letting the air out of the tires of the world economy. We will engage with Japan and other Trans-Pacific Agreement countries, with old friends and partners, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, on whom we deliberately turned our backs in the early 1970s. We will get going with our friends in America. And I share the optimism of President Trump. And I say to all the naive and juvenile anti-Americans in this country, if there are any, there seem to be some, I say, grow up and get a grip. The US already buys 1/5 of everything we export. And yes, of course, there are going to be difficulties, and our shower trays still seem to fall foul of US rules, Liz. And if you want to sell insurance across America, Mr. Ambassador, you still have to deal with 50 separate regulators. And it is high time, I think we all agree, that they cut their punitive tariffs on Scotch whisky. And it goes without saying to all those conspiracy theorists who may still be in existence, all those believers in the Bermuda Triangle, or who think that Elvis is shortly to be found on Mars, it goes without saying that the NHS is not on the table. And we will not accept any diminution in food, hygiene, or animal welfare standards. But I must say to the America bashers in this country, if there are any, in doing free trade deals, we will be governed by science and not by mumbo-jumbo, because the potential is enormous. We want a thriving trade and economic relationship with the EU. Our historic friends, partners, neighbours, and I shall today be tabling a parliamentary statement spelling out our objectives. And at the outset, I just want to say to our friends, I want to reassure you about one thing. I want to lay one myth to rest. We will not engage in some cutthroat race to the bottom. We are not leaving the EU to undermine European standards. We will not engage in any kind of dumping, whether commercial or social or environmental. And here again, I dispel the absurd caricature of Britain as a nation bent on the slash and burn of workers' rights and environmental protection, as if we are saved from Dickensian squalor only by enlightened EU regulation, as if it was only thanks to Brussels that we're not preparing to send children back up chimneys. In one field after another, Britain is far ahead. So I hope our friends will understand that what is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. There is no need for a free trade agreement to involve accepting EU rules on competition policies, subsidies, social protection, the environment, or anything similar, any more than the EU should be obliged to accept UK rules. The UK will maintain the highest standards in these areas, better in many respects than those of the EU, without the compulsion of a treaty. The reason I stress this need for full legal autonomy, the reason we do not seek membership or part membership of the customs union or alignment of any kind, is at least partly that I want this country to be an independent actor and catalyst for free trade.